Today we are going to learn the verbs transformation through this song. This song is a very popular song in the old times, probably 1980s and early 1990s. It's a song that was translated into many different languages. Probably many of you have heard it already and are familiar with it. So, right? Probably many of you are very familiar with this song already. So, we are going to show you through some examples of the words how the verbs are being transformed and what are the rules. So through these lyrics, you can see that the black underlined here are some of the examples of the verbs. So you can see this one is kiku and this one is narimashita, and this one it's actually in the second categories of the verb. So we are only going to talk about the first category of the verbs. So the second category, we are going to talk about it in a later time. So this one, wakarimasu. This one is also in the second category. So this one is tsuita. So we will also show you what kind of verbs are in the first category and what are the rules that will put the verbs in the second category. Okay, so we are going to show now the table that I summarized about the verbs. Okay, so as you see on the left, this is the table I summarized about the rules of the verbs transformation. So here I would like to give reference to a few YouTubers. So one of the main learning sources is 何必日语. So this is a very humorous teacher that makes learning especially easy. So here, let's take a look at the rule first. So as we talked about, the big category of the verbs are 3 of them. So this one is the first category, but sometimes it's also called the 5 sections verbs. So we will also talk about why it is called with the name 5. So you will see soon. So and then the second category is actually the upper and lower section of the category, and then we will also talk about why it is called this name. So there's a third category. It's actually a category of 2 irregular verbs, which we will talk about later. So let's try to focus on the first category today, right? So it's named after the 5 sections. So why is it? We all know that actually all the verbs, regardless of which category it is in, all of their ending sound will all land on the phonetics of wu, right? So we know all the wu sound are here. U, k, s, ts, n, hu, mu, yu. lu, bu, gu, right? So these are all the sounds that end with the wu sound, right? In different lines. So you can see that. So here in our example, right? So we have this word, right? So could, kiku, right? So it means to hear, kiku. So you see that the ending sound is ku, right? So which is a ku sound. And then we have another verb that we actually see in the song, which is this one, right? Naku, right? So this one also ends with the ku sound. So this one means to cry, right? And then so these are the verbs that ends with could, right? And then there are other verbs such as these ones, right? So that end with lu, right? So this one is shilu, right? So shilu is actually means to know, right? Or to understand. So this one we also see it in the song, which is wakatlu, right? So this is the original form of the here we see that it's wakatlimasu, right? So wakatlu is actually the original form of this wakatlimasu, right? Or sometimes in many TV series or drama, you probably also have heard people saying wakata, right? So that's also another form of this wakasu verb transformation, right? So these are the verbs that ends with lu, and then we also have this verb that ends with u, right? So the first alphabet that actually that ends with the wu, right? So it's iwu. So you can see it means to speak, right? So therefore, regardless which categories of the verbs, we now know all the verbs will end with the sound of wu, right? But then how do we distinguish the first category versus the second category, right? So we see that these are the verbs ends with lu, right? So the first category, if the verb that does not end with the lu, then it must be in the first category, right? So you see that these are iu, right? This one is lu, right? So this one that is also ends with the wu, right? So therefore it's in the first category. This one is right? So also ends with not lu, right? And then these ones ends with ku, so it's also not lu, so it's also in the first category, right? But there are exceptions, right? So even though some of these verbs that ends with lu, right? Because usually if the verb ends with lu, then it will probably be in the second category, right? But there are exceptions. So such as if the verb ends with lu, right? So the sound before the lu is not it nor it, then it will be in the first category. In other words, if the verb ends with lu or with lu, then it will be in the second category, right? So for example, this one the verb ends with lelu. This one is kelu, right? Then it's etlu. So therefore, it ends with either etlu or yitlu. Then it will be in the second category. But these ones, for say, this one is kalu, kalu. This one is this one is probably should not put it here because it's shilu. Then it actually ends with e or itlu. So this one is probably should not be put in the first category, and we should probably move it down to here, right? Because it's itlu. And then so this one is natlu, right? To have become. So we also see this in the song. So this one here, nali mashita, right? Natlu. So the natlu is the original form of nali mashita, right? So it's natlu. So therefore it's not itlu nor elu. So it's in the first category. And this one is watalu. So it's alu, not ilu nor elu, so therefore it's also in the first category, right? So usually if we are more familiar with the words, then usually you get used to whenever if a verb that's a nai ending for the negative negate form, then it will be in the first category. Okay, so now we know how do we distinguish first category from the second category of the verbs. So now let's look at how these first category of verbs that will be transformed, right? So now we will touch upon the name of this first category. Why does it have a name of 5 within the naming of this category, right? So because we know all the verbs ends with would, right? So therefore this column, right? These two columns actually represents the original form of the verbs, right? So so you see we have would, could, right? Lu and mu, right? So you see that the transformation, right, of the verbs will be converted to either a, I, e, o, right? So therefore, some of the transformations before the original form will be the sound before u, right? Because we know in hiragana it is a, I, u, e, o, right? So therefore, some of the forms will transform the wu sound into the sound before it, and some will be transformed into the sound after wu, right? And then these are the 5 sounds, right? So therefore that's why it has the name 5, because it uses these 5 sound to represent the transformation of these different tenses, right? So so here we have, when it's a, then it means that it's something that hasn't happened, right? So if you want to represent the verb into something that hasn't happened, then you're gonna use a, right? Transform would of the ending of the verb into a, right? And then yi, and then e, and then o, right? So we will look at each of them now. So for the transformation from wu into a, so we already talked about it can represent something that hasn't happened. But if you want to also express the negation, right? So negation is something that hasn't happened, right? So then you transform the would ending into a, and then plus nai at the end. So this transformation will represent negation of that verb. So let's look at some example. So this iwu, right? Iwu. So the original form is wu, right? Yi wu wu. And then so we need to transform it into a, but then it's an exception for a, only for a. So we will convert a into wa, right? So that may be for better pronunciation, easier pronunciation. That's the only exception in all of the transformations, right? So yi wu, then we say yi wa nai, right? So we transform it into wa and then plus nai. So yi wu nai. And then we will also, let's see another example, right? So for say this one, wa ka lu, right? Wa ka lu. So the original form, right, is lu, right? So then for the negation, we translate it into the a forms, right? So then it becomes wa ka la and then plus nai. Wa ka la nai, right? Transform it into la and then plus nai, right? So this is how the negation is actually being formed. And then let's look at the second one, right? So this second transformation is actually quite prevalent in many cases, right? So what you do is you transform the wu sound into i sound, right? And then plus if it pluses mus at the end, then it means it's in English it will be the present tense, right? It means that the verb, like the habitual verbs, right? What you do. So which really, if you want to find the equivalent in English, it will be the present tense. So transform the wu sound into i sound and then plus masu. So this one is very prevalent in many cases, right? So in our song example, right? So we see that. So here, this one, right? You see this one? Waka limasu. Exactly this one, right? So this waka, I understand, right? Understand. So it's waka lu. The original form is lu, and then we transform it into li, the yi sound, and then plus masu, right? Waka limasu. So this is the verb right here, right? But then there's also another way of using this form, this e form, right? If you don't connect with masu at the end, but you connect with mashita, right? Then it represents the past tense in the polite form, in a more formal, polite form. So therefore, so we also see the example here, right? So this one is nari mashita, right? So nari, let's find the verb. So this one, right? Nari mashita. So nari, cry, right? Nari. So the original one is naku, right? So this okay, so this one is probably not the li because it actually ends with e. The e is li, so it will not be the could because the e sound will be ki, right? So if that one it will be probably naki mashita, right? So let's find the not li mashita. So it will be lu. For sure it will be because li only right, the lu sound will be transformed into li sound, right? So not li mashita, right? So we know that it will be li, right? Not li mashita. So yeah, so therefore it actually transformed the lu sound into li, and then plus the mashita to represent the past tense in the polite form. But there's also the regular past tense, right? Not the polite form or formal form of the past tense. So which you don't use much that, but you actually just connect with the that, right? So this will follow under this one, which we will actually talk about after we talk about the other forms, right? So we talk about, so these two, the first one, right? The negation and the present tense are actually the most used transformations, right? And then, so these middle ones are the original form of the verb transformation, and then the later one. So this one is the conditional, right? And this one is imperative, right? Order, demands. So these ones we will talk about in details later. So okay, let's come back to this. How do we form this? What's the rules to form this regular past tense, right? So so these two actually, so the ta and te, so see these ones, right? They all starts with the sound teeth. So therefore, in the language, they decided for them it's not easy to pronounce it directly, connecting with the t sound. So therefore, they decided to use a different rule to convert the ending sound, right? So there are four of them, right? So if the because we are actually converting, right, the polite past tense into the regular past tense. So then we will look at these two, right? These two columns, right? These two columns, and then if the transformation, the ending is yi, chi, li, then it will be converted into tu, right? So you see that as our example, right? Waka limasu, right? In the song, waka limasu, right? So or not limashita, right? Not limashita. So because it ends with li, right? Li. So therefore it will be converted into tu. So then it will be na da, right? So it will erase the mash and only the da, but then convert the li, right, into tu. Actually, this one is kind of, you kind of swallow the sound, the tu sound. So it will be waka limasu. So it will be waka da, right? So this is what you've usually heard, right? We talked about it at the beginning. So you always hear people say waka da, right? So there's this the middle sound that is swallowed, right? Which is this tu sound. So instead of waka limashita, it becomes waka da, right? There's two sounds being swallowed. So, but then there's also the second rule, which so yi, chi, li will be converted into tu, and then swallow the sound tu, and then plus da to represent the regular past tense, right? These are the orange ones. And then the red ones is if the mashita, if is being added in front by ki, right? The ki one, then you will be converting it into yi, right? So this one, kiku, right? It will be, it will not be because if the polite form will be kikimashita, right? Then now it will not become kikimashita, it will be kiita, right? Kiita. The only exception is this iku, right? Iku is to walk, to go, right? So it will follow this two sound. So it will instead of ikimashita or iimashita, it will become ita, right? To represent past tense. And then the third one is ni beat me, right? Ni beat me. So this green one, ni beat me. Then it will be converted into the sound, right? So for example, this shinu, right? So it will be, because nu, right? Nu become ni, and then will be shita, right? Shita, and then to represent the past tense, right? And then the funny thing is, so you see these are the green ones, right? So not only the ending sound will be converted into and sound, but then they decided also add the two dots from ta into da, right? So this is ta, and then it becomes da. And then if it's te, then it becomes te, right? Adding the two sound means you're gonna make the ta into da and the te into de, right? So for example, there's nomu, right? To drink, nomu, mu. It originally would be me converted into an, but then it will be no da, right? So that's the third for converting into regular past tense. And then this one, right? The fourth one is if it's she, right? In the masu or mashita rule, then there's just no change, right? So for example, right? This kesu, she, right? So it will be just kashita, right? No change. Okay, so these are today's topic of the rules of verb transformation of the first category of the verbs, right? So if we look at the examples in the song, this kiku, right? Kiku is just the original form, right? And then this one narimashita. So we see that because it's ashita, right? Rimashita. So we know that it's in the, it will be probably loot, right? Loot ending, and then it will be nalu, right? Nalu, and then it's alu, nailu, nur and lu, so it will be in the first category, right? And then it will follow the same rule as this wakalu, right? So therefore it will be nali. So this one here for the masu to represent the present tense, right? So with nali mashita for the present tense, right? Adding mashita to represent the polite form of past tense. And this one wakarimasu, right? So wakaru, and then this is the present tense, right? So we do wakari, right? Li and then plus masu to represent the present tense. Okay, so these are the topics of today. I hope you like it. See you next time.